Welcome to our update on Perennia's online pest management guides. I'm Michelle Cortens. I'm the tree fruit specialist, and making this process more efficient for our Perennia employees and our clients has been a kind of passion of mine over the last few years. I've been really closely involved in this process, and that's why I'll be presenting it to you today. Um, we work on this guide. We update it annually every year. In addition to it being online, we're also updating that information, as you know. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the updates that we've made to this point, and also how our online guide has kind of evolved a little bit this year. So what we're going to go through in this webinar is firstly a brief background about the pest guides, and then talking about how this year we've started setting more standards for consistency of that information that we're sharing with you. Also touching on some updates to the design that are going to improve your experience. I'll be talking about some new resources that we're able to offer, which is great. And also, what's that? You want a printable version? We definitely heard that loud and clear last year, so I'll be talking about that option this year. And I'll give you an update on our current review status. And then at the very end, we'll pull up the live guide, and I can move around in there a bit with you just to show you where to find everything that we've talked about today. So like I said, feel free to post your questions throughout, and we'll be able to get to those. So the Perennia Pest Guides. We've been updating these guides annually for many, many years, and they were always in a paper guide format, which to the user probably looked great. And you may be wondering why we moved to an online format, because conventional wisdom is if it ain't broken, why fix it? So from our perspective, it was broken because we were maintaining a lot of data in a format that was very difficult to work in. So we were, updating those pest guides in 50 different documents. Some were in Microsoft Word, some were in Excel. And, where we're working with so much data, it really should be in a database to be able to make those updates more efficient and more workable each year. So we knew that we had to change it. And with, modernization, we wanted to also have the benefit of our users being able to work with that information in a flexible format too. So to be able to use an online database to search what they're looking for. So that was kind of some of the reasons why we knew we had to modernize our process with these pest guides. So about a year ago, our team converted these pest guides into an online database. And this means that now we have information about all the pesticides that we report on that are in what we call parent tables. So, some of that information doesn't change based on what crop it's being used on. So the chemical group, the active ingredient, and information like that is the same for all crops. So we put that in our parent table, and then the different crops can grab from that to build their spray schedules. So that just helps us, maintain the accuracy of our information if we're adding or removing products over the many, many crops that we report on. This means that we have limited repeat entries, and when we make updates, it's applied throughout the schedule. So it's just keeping everything tighter, more consistent, and more accurate. As of right now, we have 12,822 records. So that is information that we review on an annual basis. And in this new format, it's just much, much easier for us to maintain. Plus, now the guides are interactive now that they're online. So they have searchable information like you learned last year. You can filter that information if you want. You can look at it in the full schedule. You can search based on pest, growth stage, if that applies to your crop, and pesticide product. So it's a lot more flexible. There are different formats that we can build that you can view it in. So we want to thank you for your patience in our first test season. Obviously, when something new gets introduced, there's going to be a learning period. So we really appreciate your support with our new system. And just in case there was any confusion last year, it wasn't it wasn't done. We're always going to be evolving this format. So if you have any feedback you want to give us, please feel free to always reach out and let us know. If there's anything you would like changed or if you're enjoying it, both positive and constructive feedback, we're very welcome to hearing. So something we really focused on this past winter was setting our own standards for consistency with the information that we're presenting. So we wanted to do it right from the beginning, because when the specialists get together and talk about pesticide product labels, one of our frustrations with the labels that are on pesticide products that are submitted by registrants, many different registrants to the Pest Management Regulatory Agency, it's very difficult to find the same information in the same place across different labels. So part of the reason why we have our annual pest guide is that we're trying to pick out that information and make it easy for you to reference. So we wanted to have our own standards to make it easy for you to find that same information across different products very quickly and very easily. So we had meetings across the specialists to agree on standards that would be applied across all crops that we make pest guides for. It was very complicated, of course, because the different crops have many different exceptions. So it's not totally the same across all crops, but we tried to standardize as much as we could, but taking into account those exceptions and making sure that we're still representing those exceptions. So we created our own internal standards guide for our data entry team. So this means if we have different people working on the guides, we're all following the same process, and we're going to try to keep it very standardized. So hoping it's going to be easy for you to reference now. We've got standard naming conventions. Our units are in days. So if you're looking at pre-harvest interval and reentry intervals and you're trying to sort that information from shortest to longest, they're all in days. So now you're going to see it from like half a day, upwards to maybe it's 14 days. Instead of having hours in there, like 12 hours, it's now represented as half a day. So, so that's been more consistent. We also have been setting familiar phrases and headings in the notes section because there used to be clumps of content and we just want to make that easier to reference. So we've been making changes like that to the notes section that I'll point out later on. So what information has been updated? So so far, something that we do very early on in our winter review process is removing discontinued products. So that has been done across all crops. And we, for many crops, have added all of the new products. Some of the crops are still being worked on, like I'll mention later. And we've been largely applied the consistency across many of the crops. So now that this process is a lot more efficient for us, what else have we been able to do? So this is where we're hoping to offer more value to our users. So this year, for the first time ever, we've been able to invite chemical companies and their representatives to go through our guides and to comment on the accuracy of the information. And they would send us that feedback, and then we're able to incorporate their feedback. So they could take a look at their own individual products, which they know best, and they could tell us, you're missing a disease for that, or we want you to make sure you have this in your comments. So that's been a really helpful process for us. Even though we're still keeping in our local information, we still want to make sure that that the companies that know their products are happy with that we're stating the information that's most important from their label on our guide. We also did an overhaul of our information for accuracy, clarity, and tried to fill in a lot of the data gaps. So really just going line by line, looking at all of these products, cross-referencing with the labels and making sure that information's all up to date. Something we also did was we added pesticide registration numbers. So On the right-hand screenshot here, you can see beside a pesticide, we have the PCP number, which is the number registered with the regulatory agency. So we did this because if you're ever in doubt about the product that you're looking at, you can always make sure that we're talking about the same product, we're looking at the same label based on that registration number. Then with regard to the specific crop changes that have happened this year, I would recommend that you watch for blog summaries from the specialists because they're going to be speaking to their particular crops. Or you can reach out to the crop specialist to hear about any product changes that they really want to highlight for you. Because last year we had talked about, because this is an online database, you would be able to kind of sort the records based on what has been changed recently. That's going to be hard to do this year because of the overhaul we did, making the tweaks and edits to the details, because a lot of our records have been updated this year. So the specialists are really going to have to focus on telling you which changes are really going to influence your practices with these products, instead of just the tweaks and details that we've kind of updated on a lot of our records. So yeah, just stay tuned for hearing about that from the different specialists about like product additions or removals, that kind of key information that really influences your management. We've also made a few design feature changes. They're small changes, but we're hoping that they'll just be nice improvements. So on the left-hand side, this was what we were looking at last year, and the right-hand side is a few of the changes incorporated from this year. So we've got a new color just to differentiate the different heading levels. So we've got multiple headings in the crop structure. So sometimes we have like establishment year versus bearing year. So kind of that's your first heading, but now we've got in gray your growth stage followed by the pest. So as you scroll through here, you'll see when you get to the next growth stage, because that will be gray and easier to differentiate from the pests under that growth stage. Also, as you're scrolling through the table, the header is going to follow you now. So you will be able to see very clearly which column you're looking at, what data it corresponds to. So you don't have to scroll all the way back to the top to see that you're under pre-harvest intervals or re-entry intervals. So that should hopefully be a nice change. Also, like I mentioned, we converted all of the pre-harvest and re-entry intervals strictly in days, not in hours. So you're not going to be seeing 12 hours, you're going to be seeing half days. So that will help if you're sorting by that column, you're going to see it in the correct order. And we also, when we were doing a deep dive into our notes section, we decided to sometimes, if information was being repeated a lot and it was important information, for example, in berry crops, water volume was important. We decided to create its own column for water volume so that that information would just be really easy to reference and you wouldn't have to dig through the notes to find that. So let's move on. And just a reminder, we will look at this live at the end of the presentation here. Something else I want to point out is that we have a column for status updates. So there have been a number of changes to pesticide products lately, and we just want to make it really clear when we know there are product phase-out periods that you are aware of those phase-out periods. So in the status update column, if there is a concern with a product, there will be a phase-out listed, and it will tell you when the product is going to expire and the date of cancellation so that you can keep an eye on that. Another update is that we've put some bolded headings in the comment section. So we, across the specialists, kind of agreed on some important headings, which would be like coverage, recommendations that might apply to like local conditions, maybe notes about pollinators, and there's a few others that I just don't have on the screenshot. But basically, we're just bolding those and making it easier to reference in the notes section. So we're also expanding to new ideas, which we've been really excited about because we're living the dream now. This is something that we've talked about for a number of years, and now that we've freed up some time with this more efficient process, we've been able to make some new reference sheets. So one of those new resources is listing all pesticides registered on individual crops. So, and maybe that was in a few guides in the past, but we've been able to consistently put it in all guides now. So what you'll be able to see under the view options is that list of all pesticides. So when you're maybe making a spray schedule or you're in the season trying to select which pesticide to use, it helps to see them in different formats. So you might want to see it in a schedule based on growth stage, which is kind of our regular calendar, but also you might just want to see a complete list of all pesticides that are available on that crop, which is the new list. So this isn't by growth stage, it's just a complete list of all products that you could potentially use regardless of the schedule timing. So that is now available. But what's really exciting is that we're starting to introduce efficacy guides as well. So for this year, we've got efficacy guides for berries and for apples. They're here, they're already ready, and there's going to be more to come over the next few years. So an example of the efficacy guide for berry, Sunny wanted to go with a rating system because that's what they're familiar with. So a 1 being like a low amount of control, and he's got a legend with his efficacy guide, which I just didn't include here, but like a 4 being excellent control, and then throughout a few notes about resistance. So that's kind of what the guide would look like. For Apple, I had organized it a little differently. So this is where we kind of talk about some of the intricacies with the different crops. But here I've got, we're kind of more interested in control versus suppression and resistance. So that is how the Apple efficacy guide is being organized. And what's really nice with the efficacy guides is you can kind of look, based on chemical group. You've got your group threes, and you can just kind of get a nice overview picture of what you've got available, especially if you're considering resistance management and trying to rotate those chemical groups. So we're really just trying to bring this information to you in formats that are really usable. Also the efficacy guide. So that's like your overview across all products and all diseases. And then there's one for insects as well. But if you were to click on a specific pesticide, or maybe even a couple slides back here, if you click on the details page for that pesticide in the main table, it's going to bring you to this individual product page. So you could be looking at the reentry interval and all of the information we have about that product. If you scroll down to the bottom, the efficacy statements are also going to be there for that particular product. So you could see that there was suppression of mite, and just get an overview of that product in particular. So again, just using the same information from that same database, but you're just looking at it differently, and the way that you in particular might want to see it to make a management decision. Okay, so maybe you're not the kind of person who likes using an online system. So this year, we're going to have these printable PDFs available. It's all of the same information. It is going to be static though, so if we do end up making little tweaks here and there, it's not going to show up in the PDF guide until the next year. So the online guide is always going to be the most up to date, but we do want to make these PDFs available. So what you can see here is we're going to have the nice title page. We're going to have that list of all pesticides contained in the guide, and then the schedule format that you're familiar with, maybe based on growth stage or based on pest. So that will all be available for you to print. Same with the efficacy guides; those are going to be available in printable formats, as you can see here, with the nice supplement as an efficacy guide and those ratings. So just a couple of questions here, and I don't have a lot of frequently asked questions to go through. So if you want to put anything in the chat or the Q&A, this would be a good time to do that. But one question we've had is about our naming convention. So I just want to explain here how this is the Perennia Pest Guide. And so you're seeing that specific registration number. The pesticide name, for example, would be Manzate Max 480F. So the reason for that, when you compare it to that same product, the product label just says Manzate Max. And so what we've done is we've used the product name and we've combined it with the formulation and the concentration of the active ingredient. So it's Manzate Max, but it's also a 480 gram per liter concentration, and it's a flowable formulation. So that's where we get Manzate Max 480F. So we're doing that because we're trying to keep the records very unique. And sometimes there are pesticide products that have a very similar name, but they have a different formulation or a different active ingredient, and that's not reflected in the name. So within our database, we do have to keep them very unique. So that's why we're doing that. So if you are ever confused about that, remember you can always check the PCP number. But just wanted to point out that this is the active ingredient concentration and the formulation. Okay, so there's just a question in the Q&A about if the PDF versions are not available yet. So the PDF versions are available for some of the crops, which I'll get to at the end here, the crops that have been fully reviewed for this season. So there's going to be a bit of a phased rollout as we're complete or finished reviewing those crops. So we did want to get some of those out as soon as possible. So I will let you know at the end which ones are already available. Okay, so, oh, I guess we're here actually. So that was perfect timing for that question. So the current review status. So at this point in time, all discontinued products have been removed from all crop guides. So if you are to check our online guides, you can be confident that we have removed all products that we are aware should be removed for this coming growing season. So that's good news. In terms of crops that are completely finished for this season and PDFs are available now and have been uploaded to our website, where you're used to finding them on the crop pages. That would include strawberry, raspberry, highbush blueberry, haskap, cranberry, and wild blueberry. So those are completely finished. Their live guides are available and their PDF guides are available. We have a number of crops that are still under review for those consistency changes, for adding new products, final confirmation from the specialists, and then conversion into the PDF format. This would include tree fruit because I've been busy supporting all of the other crops, but I hope to get this done very soon. It's on my high priority list. And then vegetables, because we have quite a few vegetables. I think they're probably 30 or 40 of our guides. So it's usually a very large system of information to go through, and it's usually the reason why we're often delayed in releasing these guides is going through all that vegetable information. So that review is ongoing, and it's just a matter of confirming it and adding new products to be able to complete that guide. So I just wanted to say it's always our goal to finish these in good time, and we're making continual progress on that goal because it's mid-March and we've already got some released now, which is great. But we're always working towards getting these done sooner. So hopefully once we've implemented the consistency this year, we'll be working towards an even earlier goal next year. So that is the goal. Okay, so the pest guide team, I really wanted to acknowledge everyone who's been working on this. It happens a lot behind the scenes that you may not know about. So we have a great team. We've got Kristen, Jenna, Shoshana, and Megan, who are our research associates. They are doing a lot of our field work in the summertime, but in the wintertime, they're also sifting through a lot of this data and helping us update everything. So thank you very much to them. For the specialists, we've got Sunny, Matt, Talia, Katrina, Hugh, and myself, who are also keeping track of pesticide changes and doing final reviews of these guides and commenting on pest stages and local recommendations and so on. So altogether, that's 10 of us at Perennia, and it's a really big group effort. So I really appreciate everyone's work on this. Okay, I see a few comments coming in, or a few questions. So one of the questions is having trouble finding the guides on the website. Where would I look? So that's what this slide is going to cover here right now. So at Perennia, we have a lot of information to deliver, and we've been talking about how do we best deliver this information. So currently, we've got our main website that you're familiar with, perennia.ca, and that website is getting pretty cluttered, and that means that some of the information, you have to sift through menus, and it can be difficult to get to. So we've been planning an update. The Perennia website is going to stay as our main website, where if you want to find out more information about us, that's kind of where you would go. But we have a lot of resources and fact sheets that they're currently on the Perennia website, and they will be for this year. Eventually, those are going to be at a place called the Perennia Academy. And so if you look at the top of our website currently, you'll see the button for the Academy. It's already there, and food safety is already using the Academy for their resources. Eventually, the Extension Services team is going to have all of our resources there as well. Currently, these PDF pest guides, I'll show you, they're still in the crop pages on our website, and we can go through that. But then we're going to have another option, which is Farm Data Tools, and that's right next to the Academy at the top of our main website. So these are separate areas that you're going to be able to go to where, main website is about us, Academy is resources, and Farm Data Tools is going to be tools that you can use to help you make decisions on your farm. So we're really collecting an awesome set of tools that we haven't talked about very much yet. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. So the pest guides are going to go on the Farm Data Tools website as well. And that would be where you would find the live guide in the future. And it's actually currently there right now as we're kind of transitioning. So Farm Data Tools has a number of things like a weather dashboard. It has a farm weather map, growing degree days, corn heat units. We've got the pest guides on there as well, like I mentioned, interactive soil map, palm blight for fire blight management, and cover crop selection. So you can see it's like the same theme. It's tools that are going to help you with making decisions on the farm. So it's more than just pest guides. It's several related tools. So the pest guides, we wanted to make sure they're really accessible to everybody. So you don't need to log in to access the pest guides. If you go to Farm Data Tools, it's the pest management guide is right there. If you want to use these other tools, you do need a login, so you would have to sign in, and the pest management guides are also after the sign in as well, so you can look, wherever you're at before or after sign in. But that is an option as well if you want to make an account to access some of those other tools. And the reason you need an account is because, you might be selecting weather stations that you want it to remember every time you log in. So just kind of maintaining some of that historical information and selections that are particular to your farm. Okay, so that was definitely a lot, I understand. I'm going to try to pull up the websites now and just walk you through that to make that more clear. Just going to look at the Q&A right now. One of the questions here is, how do we ask for something new to be added to the guide or database? I would just recommend you reach out to the specialist that it's going to apply to, and then they can get it added to the database. Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. And we're still going to work on doing these annual updates, looking over everything. But if at some point in the season you notice something or there's a new product, we can add it right away. It's just not going to show up in the PDF guides. It is going to show up in the live system though. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, this is the link here. I think after the webinar, I'll follow up. I'll give you that direct link to find the pest guides on Farm Data Tools, because that's going to be the best spot to find it in the future. So I'll share that link. But right now, I'll stop sharing, and I'm going to pull up our website to show you where to find the PDF guides first of all. I just want to make sure it's sharing. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So everyone should see our website right now. Okay, so historically, the guides have always been available under agriculture, and then you go to production information. And then you would scroll down. You would go to your crop of interest. So there's a lot of fruit crops. And you would navigate to, let's see, I know high bush blueberry has a completed guide, so let's go there. This would be the crop page for this particular crop. And you would go to Perennia Pest Management Guide. And you can see we've got already the 2025 guide for insect and disease management, guide to weed management, and the supplement, the efficacy guides. So those are already available for high bush blueberry. Like I said, it's not on all crops yet, but those are uploaded. So you would click on those, and that would bring up your PDF. I think you'll see it if I click on it. Yeah, so there we go, 2025. I've got our kind of introductory information there. All pesticides listed in the guide, which is a long list there. Keep scrolling and you're going to get to the guide to insect and disease management based on growth stage and pests. So that's already in the printable format for you. So gets quite long when it's printable, but there it is for you. Okay. So this is the current system. This is the way it's been done in the past, and you can see I had to click a lot of places to get here, so we know it's buried, and we want to improve that system. So that's where I'm talking about in the future. You're going to be able to go to the Perennia Academy, and we're going to be hosting a lot of our resources there. But that's probably a couple months down the line. So for this season, you're going to be accessing PDFs from the crop pages. Okay, next would be If you wanted to look at the online guide, that's where you're thinking about an online tool. So that would be at Farm Data Tools. So I'm just going to click there from our main website. And so here's Farm Data Tools. You can go to the Pest Management Guide at the top. And there it is. Alternatively, I could have signed into my account and I would have been able to find Pest Management Guide there. And we could try that at the end as well if we have some extra time. But yeah, here we are. I want to walk through the online system with you as well. There's another question here. Is there a fee for the account? Just wondering if some of the tools are subscription based. So the account itself is free. So you can make an account, you can go to Farm Data Tools, see what it's all about. You look at the weather dashboard and everything, and it's all free. So far, I believe only one of the tools is subscription based, and it's the palm blight tool for fire blight management for apple and pear growers. And that was one of our early tools, and it's very elaborate and it's a very small fee, really. So that one is an annual subscription, and whether or not we have a small fee with some of the specific tools in the future will be to be determined. But all of the tools on there, except for palm blight at this point, are free to use. So definitely encourage you to check it out. You know, the cover crop information, the soils information, it's all really useful information. And we will be kind of launching that more this summer and be talking more about those tools. Okay, so let's get into using the online guide. And I see there is a question specific to that. So I will get to that as we go. So the online guide, what we've got here is, you know, a little bit of general information to get you oriented. So, for example, you could click on learning about the abbreviations and definitions that we're using throughout the guide. So maybe you're a new grower, you're not really familiar with what group means. So there's a little description there, PHI, pre-harvest interval, REI, re-entry interval, and so on. We've also got our pesticide product formulation abbreviation. So if you weren't familiar with, you know, F being flowable, F is flowable solution there. Then we've got a few notes about pesticide efficacy. I can see us adding more information to this page in the future about resistance management. So that's something we would like to do. But something that we've included here is the difference between control, suppression, and partial suppression, and how that's defined by the regulatory agency. So control being like 80 to 100%, suppression being 60 to 80%, and partial suppression being less than 60%. So just kind of a few extra details there. We've also got a few notes about search criteria, what it, you know, if you're thinking about filtering that information and you just have questions about what the different filters mean, then there's just a little description there. Review status, I think this is going to be one that you're going to want to check out. So because we do our large review on an annual basis, this review status page is going to show you which crops are complete and which ones are still under review. So for example, still editing apple, but cranberry, the insect and disease guide is complete. High bush blueberry is complete. Haskep is complete. So we'll continue to change those when they're done. You'll see a lot of the vegetables. The vegetables are being updated simultaneously. So there's going to be a lot of batch kind of batch updates being complete when those are nearing their end. The weed guides as well, those have separate reviews, so you can see that which ones are complete. So that's just how you know exactly where we're at. There's some safety information. This would have generally been at the front of our print guides, and we've got some of the key information in those PDFs as well about the numbers to call. but there's just a little more information should you need it about safety. So let's go through one of these guides as an example. Okay, so let's go to insects and diseases. And we'll stay on strawberry, but you could select raspberry, wild blueberry, and so on from the small fruit guides. All right, so here are the view options that I was talking about. So how we have a number of different view options now. It's going to default to what you're used to, which is the full schedule. I think I've got a very small screen here, so if you're on a bigger computer, you'll be able to see it larger. So yeah, so this is the schedule that you're used to with the different growth stages or crop stages, then growth stages and pest. And you can certainly go through that information in the schedule format. Oops. But then also you could filter that information. So maybe you just want to go directly to a certain growth stage, or there's a pest of interest like aphids. You could just search for aphids and it would find that information for you right away. And you can look at all of that. So you see how the header is following me as I scroll down. So that's one of the updates we made this year. And you could see the bolded comments in the notes section as well. And we've got all of the PHI and REI in days. So if I wanted to search for a short PHI, I would just click that column, and now all of the data is going to sort from lowest PHI to greatest PHI. So we're getting a lot of 0 PHIs, then half day, 1 day, and 7 days. So that's how you could look at which products might be of interest to you based on the decisions you're trying to make on the farm. You could also sort by separately by reentry interval. Maybe you're just trying to get workers into the field. That's got a 0.2 day, so that's like a 4-hour reentry, getting up to half a day, and so on. So that's just one way you can quickly work with the information if you're trying to make quick decisions. You can reset that search and just search for different things of interest if that's what you want to do. Alternatively, like I said, we've got the full list of pesticides now. So you can click on that view, and now it's just going to show me 117 pesticides that can be used in strawberry. So right now it's sorted alphabetically by pesticide name. You may be interested in sorting it by chemical group. You can do that, because if you're trying to rotate, you can say, I've already used a group 1, now I need to move on to something else. And you can see there's a lot of products that share the same group. So hopefully this will help you with your decisions and with resistance management. That's just looking at all available products in strawberry. Let's see, I'll just go back. And so under view options, this is also where we have fungicide efficacy and insecticide efficacy. So I'll click on fungicide efficacy for strawberries. And so that's where Sunny's got his legend defined, 4 being excellent, 1 being fair, and everything in between. And then you scroll down and you're just seeing the ratings, excuse me, the ratings for the different diseases and the different products. So I really encourage you to just kind of play around with this now while you have maybe a little extra time at lunchtime or something, just to get familiar with it. You can click on some of these things, like say you wanted to find out more information about this product. just from that view. You can see everything we've got on this particular product with the different efficacy ratings for that individual product. Okay, checking the questions here. Let's see. So there's a question, can you sort by a specific crop like high bush blueberries, or do you have to go through the pest management guide? Okay, so and that was asked earlier on, so I just wanted to make sure I fully answered that. So we've got the major headings for tree and vine fruit, small fruit, and vegetable. Within those, it's broken down by specific crop. So if you were just interested in high bush blueberry, that's where you would go to small fruit, high bush blueberry, and then you're just seeing the high bush blueberry information. We had to make separate guides for these because of the different growth stages. You can't combine the information because, you know, whatever is a growth stage for high bush blueberry is not necessarily for strawberry. However, where it really works well is in vegetables, where if I just go to insects and diseases, for example, all of the vegetables are listed at the same time. So there's actually like 3,564 entries, which is just handy if you wanted to say, like, I want to compare brassica and asparagus, you know, whatever you wanted to do. You can just look at the two of them together. You could, you know, see if the two of them have a shared pest and so on. Like if you're growing multiple vegetable crops, this enables you to look at the ones of interest at the same time. So that's where this has been an improvement for vegetable, being able to look at multiple crops at the same time. But we also have it pre-filtered. So if you're just interested in carrots, then just go right to carrots. And that's all the information that you're seeing. But like I said, we couldn't combine it for the berries and the tree fruit because they didn't have shared crop stages and pests. So, yes, I think that answers that. Okay. So this is great. Lots of questions coming in. Thanks, everyone. So is there a pest identification tool that shows pictures of the certain pests? There is not from Perennia currently that I'm aware of, but that's an interesting idea. I think you'll find like throughout the season in a lot of the blog, like newsletter, kind of weekly updates, there may be pictures, but in terms of like an actual guide to reference, we don't have that. You know, you may find it in some of our fact sheets as well, but in terms of a central location, we don't. But that's an interesting idea. So thank you for that. Let's see. Selection of pesticide can be influenced considerably by cost per area. Is there any data that indicates if the product is low, medium, or high in cost per unit area, not actual prices? So this is not something that we've been able to do. Yeah, I feel that would be a difficult one for us to tackle. Because different suppliers have different products. Those prices are going to be changing frequently. I see your point about doing low, medium, high cost. It's an interesting idea per unit area. It's something we can talk about as a group and see if that's doable. Otherwise, at this point, you're just going to have to I guess contact your supplier and get their cost list, and then when you're filtering the information, then kind of have your top choices and then look at the cost and see how it compares. So yeah, no, it's an interesting idea though. Thank you for bringing it up. It's definitely something we've mentioned and are just not exactly sure how to implement it yet. What's the best way to find a product label for spray data? So if you're talking about like the label from the Pest Management Regulatory Agency, we always encourage you to go to their label search, which, okay, if I go to any of these pages here, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, we've got a disclaimer on every page, which includes a link to the pesticide label search. So you should be familiar with using this search. So I'm just going to click there. And so this is what we use to update the guides. We use the PMRA label search. And this is where you can find full registered labels for all products that are registered. And so you can search this generic area on their website. We find the search very finicky. A lot of us prefer to go to set the product name and then type in a certain criteria like, I don't know, anything. And then this is where you're seeing the registration number, the PCP number that we're referencing, and you'd click on that registration number there to pull up the product label. So that's where you get the multi-page label that is not standardized and can be difficult to sort through the information, but ultimately you should be looking at these product labels, just verifying that everything is correct. So that's where you can find all of the labels. Okay, great questions, everyone. Make sure there's nothing in the chat. No, looking good. Okay, so I think there was something else I wanted to touch on here. Okay, we looked at all pesticides, fungicide efficacy. Yeah. Okay, are there any more questions? Okay. Well, that's great. I'm not seeing any more questions. Is there something else we were going to go through? No, okay, a few more questions now. Will it be possible in the future to search by pollinator toxicity? Yeah, that's an interesting one. That is something we could implement. Currently, we've got pollinator comments in the notes section if it's specifically mentioned on the label, like if it's specifically toxic to pollinators. That is something we pointed out. We don't currently have that data on every single product in order to be able to give you a search option for that. So that is something I will make a note of and we can talk about. Good question. Another question, can we filter organic products? So that is something we are trying to implement. Okay, so for example, that would be under management system. So we've got conventional field products, conventional greenhouse products, potentially organic field products, and potentially organic greenhouse products. So we say potentially because there are different organic certifiers and we can't guarantee that they're going to be listed under your certifier. But there are a lot of products that are commonly organic that we feel confident just bringing to your attention. So that is something that is in place, but I'm going to put a caveat there by saying we don't have all of the information on all of the products filled in yet. So if I click on potentially organic field, we'll see if anything shows up here. So we may even need to have a column that's telling you you're seeing potentially organic products. But yeah, I mean, you are seeing like the oils and the coppers and the biologicals. So that information may be there for strawberry at this point. I don't exactly know, but I know for some of the crops, I think for vegetables specifically, we haven't had the time yet to go in and fill in those specifically organic products yet. But we are working on it, definitely on our radar, something that we want to do. But currently, organic and conventional products come, they show up in the main schedule by default altogether. Okay, so great question. Thanks for all the positive comments, everyone. Appreciate that. People saying it looks good and great job, so thank you. Yeah, good questions. Okay, let's see. It would be nice to have PCP numbers linked to the PMRA label. Okay, so that's an interesting point. That's something we've talked about among the specialists. That would be very handy to link directly to the label, but unfortunately, the labels, the link to the label, the specific URL to the label can change frequently. So that would be something that I think would be very difficult for us to maintain, because if the PMRA updated or uploaded a different label and that link changed, then our link would become broken on our website. So we're a little hesitant to go that way. And I think you should just rely on using the main search for that reason, at least for now. But yeah, good point. Okay, question about, is there a way to search contact versus systemic? There is not currently, no, but there is definitely the opportunity to do that if that's something that people wanted us to do, because that's just a matter of saying for each pesticide whether it's contact or systemic, and then letting you search that way. Yeah, okay, great comments. Awesome. Okay, I think the one other thing I was going to show you is that if we go to Farm Data Tools, so I could sign in here. Hopefully I remember my sign in. I think it would be that one. Awesome. Love it when it works on the first try. Okay, so this is Farm Data Tools, where you're going to be able to find a lot of these tools that I mentioned. Look at that weather map. It's raining today, folks. And it's going to keep raining. Okay, so this is after signing in, so I have an account. You can just hover over on this side to see the different tools, or you can expand it. So that's where we've got pest guides again. So let's say you're already in Farm Data Tools, you're looking at the weather, you're thinking about cover crops, and then you want to plan your pest guide. So the pest guide is just there too, just so that you can find it after login and before login. So it's the exact same guide. It's just in another spot for you to find. But yeah, definitely check out, like, make an account, check out all these tools. We're on fire at Perennia, just building all of these resources for you. So hopefully you take the time to check them out. Some really cool tools there: cover crops, fire blight, soil, and so on. So we'll be talking a lot more about farm data tools, so I won't hog your time on that right now. But yeah, definitely trying to make things easier for all of you. So I appreciate you guys joining the webinar today. I hope that was helpful. Feel free to reach out anytime, anything, you have any questions, please let us know.